everyone, welcome to StormCrows TV, the channel where two lit chicks discuss anything reading, writing, or in this case, visual. I'm Emily Sloan.
I'm Allegra.
And today we're going to be discussing Bridgerton.
Now, when we recorded this video, we had a lot to say, so we cut the video into parts. If you want to see part 1, the link is below in the description, so definitely be sure to check that out. This video, part 2, will pick up right where we left off, so let's talk about Daphne Bridgerton.
Daphne.
Hastings is an amazing character who deserved a much better love interest.
The amount of growth that Hastings experienced and that we saw demands better. It demands a better match, a better partner. Oh god, Daphne is such an awful person.
I know I've had some friends who try to defend her. I don't understand it either. Like, she doesn't learn to care about anyone until vaguely towards the end when she tries to help Marina. But she's doing that for selfish reasons too.
Right. She's not helping Marina because she feels bad for Marina. She's helping Marina because she sees a lot of herself in that situation. I have been abandoned too, and I think that abandoned women should stick together. You haven't been abandoned. Your reputation was saved. He didn't want to marry you. I mean, he might have deep down because, like, he likes you, but he knew he'd make a shit husband to you. So he didn't want to marry you, but he saved your reputation by marrying you. And then he didn't leave you in a house somewhere, which by all rights, he could have been like, cool, you stay in London, I'm going home. You stand there and you tell him, you're the one I couldn't sacrifice. I don't care that we can't have kids. And then you kick him in the nuts by immediately reneging on that and going, well, no, I didn't have all the information, bitch. What did he owe you? He said we can't have kids. And you went, cool. You didn't say why. And that's enough. Like, she never asks why until like episode 7, something like that. Where it's just like, you never ask him why, you just accept it, which to him goes, okay, she's cool with that, but you weren't cool with it. Sorry, I get so mad. You weren't abandoned. You're nothing like Marina. Your situation is nothing like Marina's. Go fuck yourself.
Her situation was not what she wanted it to be, and therefore it was equally as bad as Marina's in her head. She's that level of spoiled. Oh, my husband is mad that I made him the sex scene that that
he did not consent. He told you to stop and you continued to go, and yet I'm supposed to side with you? No, because if you reverse the situation and at some point the woman went, hey, no, wait, stop, and the guy went, nah, and then gave you that I'm a bitch look right at the end of it, I'm sorry, that guy would be crucified. So, no, it's not okay just because you swap the gender.
You deserve him to move out of the house and to, like, make you lead separate lives after that. That's your penance. The fact he forgives her, like, the hell?
Now, in the book, he does kind of leave for a bit. But in the book, it's also very clearly worse. Like, the scene is, he's intoxicated. And she thinks about it. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I was talking to my sister. I go, let's just say we're in a situation where we could be so vile as to do that. You don't immediately look at him like, yeah, bitch, what you gonna do? You just go, oh, I didn't know. What was that? Because you're so stupid about sex anyway. It's like, why didn't you just play that off?
Honestly, if you're rewriting this for the screen or trying to come up with any kind of possible alternate version of this, the pull-out method is not that great, guys.
You know what they call people who use the pull-out method? Parents.
It's honestly just a matter of time until, like, he's distracted enough one time.
I'm surprised that they're running around like farm animals and it didn't happen the first go.
As much sex as they're having,
Can I just make this point? I wish I had her periods, and here's why. I know when mine are coming. I can't speak for you, but I'm gonna try anyway. When ours are coming, like days in advance, you and I are texting each other like... And this is without calendars. I do keep track, but like without a calendar, it's coming.
Hi, I'm from the future here. So I don't know if this was karma or if Shonda has some magical powers I'm not aware of, but I totally ended up eating these words just a few days after we recorded this, and I totally get how a period can sneak up on you now. Anyway, back to the video.
I will say that when I was in high school and early college, I would have surprise periods, so that I could believe. And honestly, I wasn't sure if they were trying to say it was a surprise period or, like, actually a miscarriage.
I assumed it was a period. I didn't even consider a miscarriage until right this second.
Considering how clueless Daphne is about apparently all of female life, thinking it's a period that she just completely was wishing away doesn't seem unlikely.
I am not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's improbable. If you're being hyper aware of your period, the future of your marriage hinges on whether or not this period happens. You're going to be hyper aware.
Yeah, I'm still not sure what they were aiming for with Daphne, except that it just made her seem clueless again. And like, I think they were trying to aim for sympathy with that. And it really just came across as she still hadn't bothered to read a damn book.
Actually, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I think it speaks to her arrogance. She so arrogantly believed that her plan had worked, that she didn't need to worry about her period, because there was no way in hell it was going to happen. Because I made him inside me, which means his seed has quickened in my womb, and I won. So when the period hit, again, it comes back to your point about denial. It was like, oh crap, I failed.
I mean, I could buy that too. Without reading, Daphne's internal monologue, that's a valid take. It's got to be one of the weakest main female leads for a while. I don't sympathize with Daphne at any point. You have all the money and the status in the world. Yeah, it kind of sucks to be a girl in this time period, but other girls in this time period in this show are suffering far more. Marina, even Penelope, even Eloise.
I know, oh gosh, like it's Crowder or Crowden or Compton, something, the rival to the prince's affection, the one who had the weird birdcage hair all the time. Like, I know she was supposed to be painted as the antagonist, and don't get me wrong, she was annoying, but the more we were exposed to her, the more I'm like, Daphne, you're the bad guy here.
I did appreciate when they had her talk to Daphne and be like, did you really have to? And I was like, good, thank you for pointing out the fact Daphne's the villain.
I knew we'd be rivals this season, but I never thought we'd be enemies. You can have any guy you want. This was my chance at happiness. And no one's talking about the fact that, well, Daphne manipulated the situation so she got her happiness. But what about the happiness of all the people she destroyed? Not only did you break the prince's heart, he didn't pick the second choice. He was like, I'm going home now. Bye. Birdcage hair. Didn't get her happiness. Daphne ruined it because she wanted to make Hastings jealous.
I felt so bad for Friedrich because he seems like a genuinely awesome dude who deserves a happy ending too. The other, birdcage hair girl, Cowley, she didn't get one. Like, yeah, she's annoying and she was manipulative, but she was also playing the game as she knew the rules to be. You got to do what you got to do to survive. Kind of like Marina's doing. Kind of like Penelope's really doing secretly. Kind of like Eloise needs to learn to do. And Daphne just gets dropped at the pinnacle of all of this. So she never has to play the game. She never has to learn the rules. She never has to actually fight the system.
There was part of me that was like, you can't just refuse the queen's nephew. I remember when I first encountered that, I was just like, oh good, the queen's actually pissed. She's going to do something about it. And then it was just so easily resolved. I'm like, no, I would have loved if Daphne got slapped down a little bit harder.
I was actually hoping that Charlotte was going to give them an actual hurdle to leap through. And then Hastings saves the frickin' day.
Yep, and but he's so horrible.
The worst, because he doesn't want to have children.
And again, I mean, if you just let time take care of that, he would have himself in that regard. But no, you had to go and do this dirty, sort of unethical thing to him. And there's no way you can defend that to me. Like, you can defend all the other things about her character, I guess, by saying, well, she's just really young and she's naive and her mother didn't prepare her the way she should have. Sure, I guess I can buy that. But that moment, like, you intentionally deceived him, intentionally went against his wishes. And even in that fight they had after, she never once asked why.
She's never sorry about anything either.
We need to love each other, and we need to love each other every day, and you need to stay. And it's like, but can we talk about boundaries and honesty? And oh no, okay, yeah, sure, let's just.
Yeah, Daphne's emotionally abusive. Sorry, she is. She's not healthy. Don't like her. Never gonna like her. A better, healthier, resolution for both of them would have been her getting pregnant via the pull-out method because it's stupid. And him freaking out and her actually having a reason to be like, I'm happy. I don't understand why you're throwing a fit. And then having the big, blowout fight that probably would have ensued. And then having them having to work through their issues. Like, that would have made sense and she wouldn't have come off evil.
Right. That would have been a better way to resolve it without completely trashing the character of Daphne.
I don't remember when Bridgerton was written. A certain kind of romance novel really has like a self-insert main female character, and you sort of read it knowing that this is reader self-insert, and the character always is put upon, and she doesn't ever do anything bad because you don't want to imagine yourself having to do anything bad. But there ends up being that character isn't so much a character as just your vehicle for the plot. And I don't know if Daphne did fall victim to that sequence of events or what, but like she's just not a good character.
It was written in the year 2000.
So yeah, they probably were working on it for a couple of years before that. So I'm guessing it might have been some sort of leftover of that era. I don't know. But Daphne's the villain, and I'm sorry, but she is. Hastings deserves a better girlfriend. Can we punt Daphne into the Thames and find him a better girlfriend?
Unfortunately, no. They're going to have many more children because, reform Drake and you've solved all my issues. Basically, it's the reverse magic peen. Like, we used to joke about how in romance novels, if a heroine was having a problem, don't worry. There's a magic penis out there that's going to solve it. So in this instance, we have magic vag. Her vagina had all the powers that the Duke of Hastings needed to overcome all of his childhood hangups.
That's right, yes. Now, because happy ever after equals many children, there's no other alternative.
And in all fairness, if you actually Google the Bridgerton family tree, like the 21 or however many years later, they all have a lot of children. All of them. And not a single one of their wives die.
Really? That's some magic plot armor.
And it's funny because only Daphne and Hastings do the alphabetical names. Now, they had a daughter in the books, not a son. And I think her name was like Amelia or Amelie or something like that. So in this one, they gave him a son. So I guess it was more to mirror like the father and have that poetic sort of, your wife didn't die having a son and you like him and you're so happy that your wife's okay. And
because you have a soul.
Okay, I will never pretend to understand. I know the pain of childbirth unless or until I have to endure it. But that last scene where she's giving birth, I felt was not good. Between the faces and the sounds, like, yeah, I know you're gonna make faces when you're giving birth, and they're not meant to be photogenic, and the sounds you make aren't really, meant to be recorded. But this was an extra level of awful. And not in a, oh my gosh, this is the horrors of childbirth. It's more of the act better. Make it seem like you're pushing a watermelon out of a pinhole. Like, now, in fact, the baby was kind of tiny, but still, that's the best description I've ever heard of childbirth. A watermelon through a pinhole.
I guess the fantasy element is, in Bridgerton world, even giving birth isn't that hard, really. Unless you're meant to be a tragically dying mother figure.
Also, I'm actually surprised Hastings was in the room for that.
Fantasy world. Fantasy rules.
Well, no, because even in all the Regency novels I read, #Mallory novels, the men loved their wives, but they weren't in the room when the wife was pushing it out. I mean, they were in the study with their brothers getting foxed and, like, hating themselves because, oh my god, my wife could die and I did this to her and I'm never going to touch her again. And but then, they will. But it's like, they have that moment of, oh, this is the worst moment of my life and I can't believe that she's going through this and I can't be in there.
I think they just did it to make it entirely the opposite of the way his dad did things. Like, because again, with Bridgerton makes no ability to have any kind of period correctness whatsoever, so it's clearly modern morality via Victorian etiquette with a Regency costume ball on top of it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I had a hard time separating some of the characters' actions from the time, because it just didn't feel like the time.
Once I realized it was Victorian crap dressed up like Emma, I sort of had an easier time with it because it's like, okay, someone really just wanted to write a Victorian novel, but the Regency was trendy, and so that's what they did. And now it's a TV show like this. It's good fluff. It's a solid, cute, fluffy thing. I didn't hate it. Honestly, if it wasn't for friggin' Daphne, I would be like, yeah, this was a fun brain candy, turn my brain off thing, but I really want to see season 2 because there will be less Daphne. And maybe they'll have a better heroine.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of social media posts from people who seem to think that it's going to be a continuation of Hastings and Daphne. Guys, there are 8 books, and there are 8 siblings. And that last episode was clearly setting up the older brother.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was very like, and then they had his opera singer girlfriend talking to the modiste, who's with the other brother. Like, clearly they're setting up stringers for other pairings and unconventional marriages. I don't know. Like, I'm already far more interested in the Featheringtons and literally almost everyone except the Bridgertons.
It's funny because every time someone slapped down Lady Featherington, I was like, you don't piss off Rome. Like, I kept waiting for her to go full Rome on them. Like, she's coming after you. And then, like, when the husband started crying on her, and she's like...
Oh my god, I love that.
I was like, I know we're not supposed to like her, and she's supposed to be all levels of ridiculous. But I think I identify with her most because we've been friends for a very long time. You have been... not necessarily, like, present for my relationships, but you have been very aware of all of them. And you know for a fact that if a man came to me and just broke down after they fucked up, like, this is your fuck up. But you know if someone broke down on me like that, I'd be like...
I cannot, yeah, that's exactly what would happen with you. Yeah, Polly Walker, I don't know what genius decided, yes, we should cast Polly Walker for this so that everyone's having flashbacks to Addie of the Julia half the time. But yeah, like, honestly, I really did love Lady Featherington because the more you learn about her, the more sympathetic she gets. Because, like, she's got these two very stupid girls and Penelope. And she's literally, like, all stair-steps. So they've all got to be out at the same time because she's, like, Mrs. Bennet. Like, she has got to get these girls married off because Dad done spent all the fortune. There is nothing for them. They got to get out of the house fast. Again, with the Bridgertons don't have anything interesting to watch. The Featheringtons have actual problems. Bridgerton house is like Eloise is off being a blue stocking, Daphne's playing the piano, the other little kids are playing in the corner. And everyone loves each other and everything's fine all the time.
ADHD is real. Like, sidebar, like, we've been talking about Bridgerton this whole time, and I've been ripping my chair apart. So if, like, you've noticed me fidgeting, it's because I literally cannot sit still. So that's what's going on. Just explaining. All right, go ahead.
I don't know. It's just Hastings was pretty much sometimes a dick, but like a low-level dick, and most of the time awesome and completely legit, like, with piecing out after she, assaulted him. I don't think anyone really, like, broke this down as a character arc and went, wait a minute, how did you break all this up into episodes and not at some point look at the whole picture and go, oh, we f***ed up?
If you examine why Hastings was a dick, it's not that he's naturally a dick. He had to work at it. Like, he's a good person. He purposely was a dick to build up these walls because he didn't want society and the ton coming up to him and trying to make a husband out of him. He was trying to keep people at arm's length so that he wouldn't have an uncomfortable marriage, not for himself, but he didn't think it was fair to do that to another person. And he tries to warn her about that. He's a dick to her to make her stop, and she keeps manipulating the situation until where he's finally like, I need to be with you. I'm fine. And then he finally allows himself to break these walls down, and you see who he really is. Yes, sometimes he works to the point that he forgets what time it is. But in fairness, his estate was left in shambles, and that's just the reality.
And
but
he's trying to be responsible after f***ing off for like 10 years or whatever. Like,
right, like
he's got some makeup time to do.
He made the mistake of trusting that the steward was present and knew what they were doing, and now he's back and goes, oh shit, my people are suffering, let me try and figure out how to help them. But you see the underbelly of it in that he is a very good person. He's very affectionate. He's really into you. And then you give him every reason to put those walls back up.
By the way, sidebar, another context clue about how Daphne was a terrible person was when they asked her to decide the pig winning thing. And she's like, oh no, I don't want any of them to be slaughtered. They're all gonna win. And then she finds out later, like the winner gets to be the one who supplies the pork. It's a big issue. Why didn't she think to ask, what's the prize for the people? Because there's always a prize for the people.
Because Daphne never seeks to understand anything that doesn't affect her. And even things that affect her, she doesn't seek to understand it if she's not wanting to understand it. Like, Like, if she's decided I'm going to be offended by this, or I've decided this is insulting to me in some way, I don't care what the reasons are. Now, to be fair, the Duke was being stupid. Like, why are you letting a dead man control your life now? Like, you got your revenge. He doesn't think you're going to reproduce. He died believing the line had ended. You got what you wanted. The fact that the line won't end, who cares? Like, he's dead. He doesn't know.
I can kind of understand his point of view because, like, that was his entire childhood trauma right there.
Yeah.
So maybe he just wasn't ready to let it go yet, and he needed a few more years.
Okay, yes, trauma's real, and it makes us do weird things, but from a perspective of, like, let's just say I still had, I'm Daphne, and for whatever reason, I still have the right to a moral high ground, because let's pretend I didn't do what she did, right? Like, if I had done what I think Daphne should have done, and asked, well, why do you feel this way? Now that I understand what's going on, it's not that you can't, it's that you won't, but why? And he had explained it to me, I'd be like, well, that's dumb, and I'm going to explain why. You basically let him ruin your childhood. Why are you going to let him still control your adult life? But I think that's something I would have had a conversation about rather than, you know what I'm going to do? Multiple conversations. I wouldn't have expected it to have been solved within a single conversation. I'd be like, well, this is going to take some time.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing. Like, her mom really sucked. Like, Lady Bridgerton somehow really didn't prepare Daphne for any kind of level of marriage. Like, not communication, not sex, not the duties of a duchess, because with the pig issue and the fact that then Daphne's trying to give presents and they're like all refusing the presents. And Daphne seems to have only the vaguest notion that a duchess should like hand out stuff. She really needed a proper governess.
Yes.
And why am I supposed to believe that the Bridgerton parents were good at their jobs as parents in preparing their children for this life?
Looking at Anthony, like the age difference between him and Hyacinth, right? He was not like a little kid when his dad died. Why did his dad not prepare him to be the Lord? The whole crux behind why Anthony is the way he is he doesn't want to be the Lord. There was a part of him that was, you could tell, very excited about the prospect of killing his best friend so he wouldn't have to be the Lord of Bridgerton. If I lose, I die, and I don't have to be the Lord, and that's great. And if I win, I'm a criminal, and I don't have to be the Lord, and that's great. So, like, for him, this horrible outcome was a win-win for him. And he was so excited that Benedict would have to do it. And Benedict was like, I mean, I'll do it if I have to, but I'd really like to not. Like, I think that's glossed over, too. Like, Benedict only just is like for a few minutes, and he goes, fine, I'll do what you tell me to do. Like, Benedict kind of stepped up when he needed to.
My question is, if Anthony really didn't want it this bad, skip him in the line of succession, send him to the church, send him off to be a soldier, and then he could just die in the wars. Or disappear. Other options to kick his son out of succession.
But I do think there's a part of him that's afraid to fail his mother. So it's like he's in this situation where it's like, okay, yes, from a poor person's perspective, like, oh, poor little Bridgerton, you have this holding you don't want. It's like, I understand. You know, I believe that choice matters so much to so many people because it's what gives you agency. Without it, you feel like your life's been kind of rooted for you. And that is the reality of being a firstborn son. And whether you're looking at Regency or Victorian, or if you're looking at any of the periods before then, it's like, you have responsibilities. You never asked for them. You didn't work for them. They were just given to you. And yeah, either you have to become a clergy or basically descend into shame or a shameful position, or suck it up and do it. And yeah, so that agency is taken from you. So yeah, I know you can look at this guy and be like, oh, poor little privileged Anthony. But like, if that's not what he wanted in his life, that's not what he wanted for his life. And I think he has every right to feel upset about that. Now, there does come a point where you do need to suck it up because people are relying on you, and you've had enough time to mope about this. So figure out what you're gonna do.
I also have a limited amount of sympathy I can give him because, yeah, you could have done something about it. Obviously, you weren't 5 when your dad died. Why isn't he actively, trying to shame the family by being on the stage? Why is he acting like he's just now learning how to do it?
It's like, because, okay, Daphne is just now marriageable, which means that the 3 brothers have been 18 for at least some time. So it's like you've got Colin, who I'm not sure how much older he is than Daphne. I could look at their birth years, but really why? Anthony is quite a bit older than Daphne. You know, she's the D, he's the A. And so, yeah, what's been happening between the gap? Dad died. You were probably too young to be the head of the house, but let's be real, your mom probably did it for a bit. And now you came of age. You took over. What have you been doing?
Banging the opera singer nonstop,
Now,
24/7.
So there is a symbolism in the opera singer in that, like, she does represent this fantasy or this fairy tale of the either or. I could be the Lord, or I could run off and have this fairy tale with this woman. And she really hammers it home, like, you know, I had this moment of imagining myself dressing up in this nice ball gown and going to the ball with you and being on your arm, and what would that be like? But then I woke up and realized, like, that's not real life, and I don't want to change, and this is just who I am. And so I think with that moment, Anthony realized, you're right, I have to be who I am. And that's why at the end he goes, fine, I'm going to get married. It's not going to be for love. It's going to be for duty, and everything's going to be what it's supposed to be. So I think, you know, it took him a long time, much longer than it should, but he finally got slapped down in a sense that he finally woke up and realized, I don't get to have the fairy tale. Like, Daphne never really woke up. Daphne always expected the fairy tale from her life and her marriage, and the Duke of Hastings was kind enough to give it to her. And so Anthony, yeah, he waits till the very last minute, but he does grow.
So I had to Google, because then I was curious about the ages. So Daphne's 21 at the start.
She's just now having a season?
So apparently in the books, this is her second season.
Yeah, that's right.
Which,
I haven't read this in a while, guys. It's been a long time. I was like in 7th grade.
The Netflix series definitely does not address the fact she's Christmas cake. That kind of gives her a little more urgency, but really doesn't redeem her much at all. But it kind of sort of tiny explains why she's so frantic. Except in the Netflix series, she is getting presented at court at the start. So that means it is her first season. Because you wouldn't get presented twice, I'm pretty sure.
No.
Because if you make it through that rigmarole once, you just take it and run.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be the diamond. Your first season wouldn't be 20.
No. We'll give them the Shonda Rhimes Fantasyland concept of ages. Yeah, your first season, you'd have been 16, 17, 18 tops.
Yeah, I was about to say, that just shows how much, like, and this is the book. So that just shows how fucking inept Lady Bridgerton was at all of this. Of course, this is something you don't think about. So 7th grade, I would have been like, what, 12, 11? Yeah, this is something you don't think about when you're 11. Yeah, now I'm looking back on that going, you would have been introduced to society at least 5 years before that.
Yeah.
Especially as the firstborn daughter. I can understand holding off on Eloise, like if the oldest daughter hadn't been married yet. So it's like, you know, that line in Pride and Prejudice where Lady Catherine's like, all of you are out and like all of you have had your seasons, and it's not fair to my sisters to be denied it just because their older two aren't married. The expectation, or rather the practice, was until the oldest daughter was married, you didn't really have a season for the next one.
Yeah, and the Bennets are middle class, not in the higher upper echelon. So, like, that's a more fuzzy for them anyway, because they're not getting presented at court.
Right.
But yes, Lady Catherine's line does betray the fact that Eloise can't come out until Daphne goes and gets married. Changing that for the TV series probably really did screw up a bit of Daphne.
It made more sense to change it, because 21 would have been way too old. You're already an old maid by that point.
They did that, and they forgot to course correct for any kind of character arc for Daphne, apparently.
I'm actually interested in all the seasons afterward, but it also really ignites my bitterness in, well, if we can have 8 seasons, presumably, like, you're going to have a second season, because this has been trending number in the top 2. It's behind Cobra Kai right now. But, you know, this has been doing fairly well for Netflix, so you're going to get a second season. Why the fuck won't Sanditon season 2 work?
I don't know.
Like, it's now a tried and true method. Streaming Sanditon had really good numbers, especially in the American market. Maybe Netflix needs to look into buying Sanditon. I don't know. Maybe they can get it done, because they're, you know, in the midst of this pandemic, they're still able to get Cobra Kai season 4 out, Bridgerton, The Witcher season 2 is slated for this year. I don't know. Maybe Netflix needs to look into it, because it's got a good following, and you can certainly have the Bridgerton people trace into it. I mean, Theo James I know he's been part of a failed series before, but let's give the guy a chance.
Sanditon specifically only needs one more season, or even for that matter, a long movie the writers and pretty much the whole company, they just need distribution and someone to fund it. Do that to give us something between Bridgertons, because it's going to be a while before Bridgerton season 2 happens anyway. By the way, can we please rewrite it so that like Penelope gets her own smart suitor?
The problem is Penelope is not a Bridgerton, and the 8 books are about the Bridgertons.
Okay, how about we just like do the thing where the TV show scraps the books? Clearly the Featheringtons are more cool anyway. I don't care about most of the Bridgertons except for like Eloise.
I like Eloise, and Eloise does bring back the Philip Marina sort of plot. I couldn't give 2 shits about the 2 babies. Like, honestly, whatever. I don't give a shit about either of them. They're too young for me to care. I like Benedict, but I think I mostly like just his interactions with Eloise. Like, he was actually really a good brother to her. And I like Anthony at times. I like when the brothers are interacting with each other. And you throw in Eloise because she's not as annoying as Daphne. And it's like, I like the family dynamic of the siblings, but only like the older ones. Don't give a crap about the younger 2, and Daphne can suck a toad for all I care. I don't give a shit about her either.
Like, I liked Marina, I like Lady Featherington, I like Penelope. If they could maybe pay more attention to the character arcs for the main couple going forward.
I'm interested to see how they do Colin and Penelope's season. That's another book I know what happens. It's a book I haven't read. I'm probably going to read these. Not necessarily because I want to, but now for research. I'm interested because, I mean, he's so appalled by this lie that Marina tells, and how could you lie to me? And that's the whole crux of why we can't be married now. And meanwhile, Penelope is sitting on this huge secret. I'm interested to see how Colin handles the revelation, because he does find out.
I do wonder, with them having the reveal about Penelope at the end of season 1, if they aren't thinking about combining books for season 2.
Well, yeah, because I think he's book 4. Because it's like you've got Daphne, Anthony Benedict, Colin, Eloise, the youngest brother, and then, or I think it might be the sister. The younger, like I said, I don't give a shit about the younger 2. I don't know. But that's the first 5. Eloise is the last one of the 5, and then Colin is here.
Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth, because I'm looking at a page with the characters listed.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Francesca. I think it's because she annoyed the shit out of me. If you put everything you knew about fictional children into a blender with a Looney Tune and you hit start, that's Francesca. And there's really no more depth beyond that. You throw in Bratty's sister too into that blender, or you sprinkle it on top, and that's her. And it's been done to death. And I'm sick of it.
It's weird because we've been bitching about a lot about just this show, but like I really do like a lot about it, because like I love Queen Charlotte. You see the pain that she's in and the situation she's in with the king.
That was a very hard scene to watch, especially like to get a little personal. I liked the king, especially at the beginning of the scene where he was very affectionate and very like caring, and you don't need to be so informal with me, and then just on a turn of the dime, the debilitation kicked in. And it reminded me, that scene I felt was probably one of the best scenes and probably one of the least talked about, but I think for people who have seen loved ones go through something like that, it was very difficult to watch.
No, if you've ever had a loved one who's dealing with, Alzheimer's or a mental issue, that was gut-wrenching. And it was beautifully done and well acted. And, like, you get why Charlotte is so invested in the Ton and this, because obviously she is projecting, and, like, this is her game that that she can't control. And I love that they included that. And I'm like, you're giving us awesome character work about Charlotte, and then you completely just have her fluff off what Daphne and Hastings did. And like, I wanted Charlotte to actually be more of a character and more of a person who's actively invested in the story. And it just seemed like we ran out of time, or we forgot, or someone wrote that last season, or someone wrote this episode and someone else wrote this episode, and we didn't communicate very well. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But
sitting here, you do realize, like, they did so great with all the secondary, tertiary things. Like, I can sit here and I can nitpick things about, like, costume and time and the things that just didn't fit in terms of Regency. But as you said, for the most part, I really did enjoy watching Bridgerton. It was Daphne. Daphne is the only complaint I have, but her failings really highlight where they did other things very well.
I think that's why Daphne was pissing me off so much, because she is like just so flat. And it's not the actress's fault, by the way, guys. Like, this is again like when we complain about what's her face? Diana? The D's. Diana in Discovery Witches. It is not the actress's fault. They are doing great with what they got. But like all of these side and tertiary characters get amazing arcs and actual conflict in really dramatic situations. And Daphne, who is supposed to be our main female character, love interest, one half of the whole love story, just kind of floats on by.
If you look at George, he has very little screen time. I think we see him twice throughout the 8 episodes, and probably for less than 2 minutes total. But what he does with the time on screen is phenomenal. Like, it's very impactful. It sticks with you. If you didn't tear up, you have no heart. I'm kidding. Right. But like, if it didn't move you in some way, like he commanded the time he had. Charlotte, she gives off prior to that scene this, is he dead? Is he dead? So she kind of plays off this, I'm indifferent. But then you see her in that scene and you see the walls crack and you see there's actual sadness. And then you recall the conversations that Danbury has with other people, like, oh, the king loved people like us. And the king and Charlotte loved each other. And you see it in that scene. You see the way she looks at him and there's heartbreak. And then it's almost like the instant she turns it off, you realize this is self-preservation, not because she's afraid of him casting her out, because I think at this point his attendants know he's lost it. She just literally can't deal with it, so she turns it off.
Part of the conceit of the Netflix series specifically, at least, I don't know if this was part of the books or not, is that they basically made a better world with their love story. Charlotte got the king, got legislation passed, got new nobility created. They've made a better, fairer world. She's watching all these people enjoy the better world they've created, and the love of her life that should be sitting next to her is just mostly gone. Except for, in quick 30-second intervals occasionally.
No, unfortunately, while I know that we could probably go on and on, I think we're going to have to call it, because we have now given Emily roughly 2 hours to cut. Anyway, so if you enjoyed what you heard, like and subscribe, comment, let us know if you agree or disagree. We'll be happy to engage in constructive and effective debate.
Let us talk about what's going to be awesome in Bridgerton season 2 or later. We'll see you probably as soon as Netflix drops something else we want to talk about.
Cobra Kai.
I haven't seen it. You're going to be talking by yourself.
Go watch Cobra Kai.
Why?
Hilarity. Johnny is your character. Like, not that you'd identify with him, but you'd laugh a lot.
I've never liked the Karate Kid stuff to start with, so I just never started Cobra Kai.
The 80s / god-awful mess that was the next Karate Kid. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of those either. I can recognize that the Karate Kid is a classic, but young Ralph Macchio just didn't do it for me. And every time I looked at him, I just kept thinking of Stay Gold, Pony Boy. But older Ralph Macchio is much more palatable. And it's very clear that the show knows what it is, and there's moments that really just poke fun of itself, and it's great. Fine, you don't have to watch Cobra Kai, because I'm much more interested in getting you to play video games, and I think that's the battle that's the hill I'm gonna die on. Go ahead and, so since we seem to have this sort of thing where we find romance or things on Netflix, we'll find something on Netflix to talk about. It'll be soon. We're gonna keep giving you the content you haven't asked for, probably won't ask for, but we're going to keep shoving it down your throats until you finally tell us what you want. So those are our demands. And until then, you have a great day, weekend. Whenever you're watching this, just have a great that. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.